welcome to Empower Voice today. We are excited to speak with you to learn more about your experiences and your journey as a woman development. And we believe that your experiences and your journey can inspire us as the youth, especially for those people who dream to become a future diplomat. So are you ready to start with this conversation now?
Sim, Anna.
Okay, great. So first of all, would you mind to introduce us about yourself, including your educational background, your name, and also your position right now?
Obrigada, mana, and boa tarde. Ko auka Helen Tunnah, ko kahurangi te maonga, ko mata au te awa, ko ataka te kainga, no Aotearoa o ka tupuna. That's a traditional mihi in Te Reo Māori, and it introduces myself and my ancestors and my connection to my family, to where I grew up and where I come from in New Zealand. So my name is Helen Tunnah. I'm from Otago in New Zealand. I did a degree in economics and history at the University of Otago quite a long time ago. And I've been working with the Foreign Affairs Ministry for about 18 years now.
So what motivated you to be in New Zealand? Could you share a specific example from your journey?
I actually, when I was younger, when I finished university, I became a journalist. So that was my first journey. This is my second journey. I had always wanted to be a journalist. I always wanted to write, and to write about the world and to write about politics, and also to write about sports. I was a sports journalist as well. And I was in that role for maybe 20 years, and then social media arrived and I started to feel my age a little bit, and an opportunity came to work in communications at our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. So I applied for that job, was successful, and then after 2 years they invited me to apply to become a diplomat. So that was my journey into diplomacy.
So before you want to be a journalist, but in the reality you become a diplomat. So as an ambassador, are there any challenges you face? Then how do you overcome them?
Yes, there are. Funnily enough, some of them are the same as journalism. I was once told I was too shy to be a journalist because you have to learn how to ask questions. One of the things I find perhaps challenging personally as an ambassador is always having to step forward and not being able to bring others forward. There is, you have a particular role that people would like to see you at the front always. As somebody who's naturally quite shy, I find that quite challenging at times, but you get used to it. Most of the other elements of the role I find really, really rewarding. They're just working in foreign policy, working with other governments. Mostly we're working with people, working on relationships, and it's very rewarding.
What is your impression when the New Zealand government nominated you to be New Zealand ambassador to Timor-Leste?
I was very pleased. It was a job I had applied for. In our system we apply for particular roles, and I had been aiming for this one for a number of years. I knew when it was going to be available. New Zealand and Timor-Leste is very well known in New Zealand because of your struggle for independence. As a journalist, I grew up and worked initially with people who knew some of the Bellabo Five. One of those journalists was, of course, a New Zealander. I can still remember where I was when the Santa Cruz images were first shown, and I was working as a journalist in Auckland when President Ramos Horta came out in 1999 to ask for the community to intervene. So I've had quite a history, and just in our country we know the history. I was also here in 2006 when the New Zealand Defence Force came back in 2006. So I was just very pleased, very proud, and felt that I would be able to contribute to our relationship and through our program, the development of Timor-Leste as a new country.
what sector does the government of New Zealand support to Timor-Leste?
So we support we call them sort of almost legacy programs. Our scholarships, very, very important. We know they're important for Timor-Leste. We're pleased that our scholarships started before independence and they've continued right through all of these years. Likewise, our volunteers, through our VSA volunteers, again, since the 1990s. As individual people, they are very committed to helping the organisations that they work with. We still support through the New Zealand Defence Force, the FFDTLE, so there are training and English language and programs we support. In our development program we support Lafaek, we support agriculture and horticulture, community policing and early childhood education.
Could you please tell us about your education sectors and why is it so important?
Education is the foundation for the economic development of Timor-Leste. Our program is focused on early childhood education. That supports what the government and other donors are doing in primary school. The research shows that if the young children can get that really good foundation and learn how to come to school and how to study, they will be more successful going through. I'm pleased our Minister of Foreign Affairs, our Deputy Prime Minister, was here in June, and he is very committed to us continuing to work in education.
What are the relationship between New Zealand and Timor-Leste are going to look like in the future?
That's a very good question. As I've been speaking, much of what I've been talking about is our historical relationship, but Timor-Leste, of course, is a very young country. So one of the responsibilities for myself here is to look at how we build connections with the new generations coming through, with so many of your young people under 30 years old or having been born since independence. It's really important for us to focus on what Timor-Leste would like now for its development, and so that's the new generation, people like yourselves coming through. It's really important for us. I'm optimistic that I think it'll be a really promising relationship moving forward based on our really strong foundations that we already have.
So, what is your message to the students, teachers and parents across Timor-Leste?
I think just to keep studying, keep learning, take the opportunities that are available. We appreciate that there needs to be more jobs. We know that, as everybody knows, that we would like more jobs here, but the key to getting those will be through continuing with education right throughout the country.
We also want to know, would you mind to tell us about your favorite Timorese local food that you like?
Yes, I thought I would change this one a little bit, and rather than speak about a particular food, there are some really, really good restaurants here in Timor-Leste. One of the other programs we support is in tourism, and we're keen to see tourism develop here. And for that, you need really good little cafes, restaurants, and Timor-Leste, and Dili in particular, has a lot of wonderful restaurants where the chefs and the staff are using local produce and presenting really, really attractive dishes which people are really enjoying. We use a little restaurant just around the corner to cater a lot of our formal events here, and it's always really fantastic food.
Today you are working as ambassador in Timor-Leste. So how about your family in New Zealand? So how do you spend your leisure time between work and your family?
Yeah, that's tricky. Timor-Leste is incredibly busy, so I find I don't actually have terribly much spare time. It's a very, very busy city, Dili, and but yes, my family live in New Zealand. It's good now. When I first travelled overseas, and this is very much going to age me, we would send a postcard and my mum might get it 3 months later. Whereas now with social media, we can be talking to our family all the time and Skyping and FaceTiming and the likes. That's really, really important. I do try to go home as often as I can. My mum's 91, so I do try to get back whenever I can. And yeah, just use social media to stay in touch. It's one of the really positive elements of social media.
To share us about your memorable experiences or achievement during your as an ambassador that have significantly impacted you.
I think there are a couple of examples I will give. One was working in my previous job during the COVID years, and it was very difficult being overseas and separated from family when all the borders were closed. But my job in that country was to try to find a way to get its medical patients into New Zealand for healthcare, because it was a country dependent on specialist services in New Zealand. We spent a lot of time, we worked very, very cooperatively and collaboratively with the government of the country was Niue, the government of New Zealand, to find a way to get those medical patients into New Zealand, because without that care it was quite bad for the people. So that's probably was a really fantastic moment when we were able to open up for one-way travel so that the patients could get the care that they needed. It was a long time. Niue, the country, was very lucky. It had no COVID for a number of years, but that was important. I think here one of my strongest memories is going to a small area called Lafaek for one of our small project funds, and it was one of the first times I left Dili, and to see the water tank that had been able to be constructed with a small amount of money and the difference that was making for the village. And it was a very beautiful little village, was really heartwarming as well.
What is your message to the young people in Timor-Leste, especially those who have disabilities, about how to become future leaders and diplomats?
I think it's similar to the message to teachers and parents and students, and that is to keep studying, keep trying, keep focused on what it is that you would like to achieve. And I think also to be kind to each other, so be supportive of each other's ambitions, to work with each other, so not against each other, but to work and support everybody going through. The opportunities will be there. They may not be there right at the time that you want them, but just being patient and striving as a community and as a group together towards your goal.
I think that's all our conversation for this interview today. Your journey and your experiences are really inspire us, the young people in Timor-Leste, especially for the women. Talk about women development. We talk about women can be a leader, women can also be a decision maker. So we hope that you continue success in your career. So thank you so much.
Obrigada, Mama. Obrigada, Mama.